Hey, just a quick video. Scott Adams was on Periscope just today. It says Coffee with Scott Adams talking about France and military robots. And he mentions about halfway through, about 20 minutes in, he mentions immigration. And he said, he was kind of taken aback a little bit. He said, I don't think anyone is in favor of just completely open borders. And he was surprised when a lot of people in his chat said, well, actually, a lot of libertarians are. Um, and he said, well, you know what? I mean, one world government's always like, appeals a little bit. Which means that, he's maybe not familiar with the libertarian argument for open borders. So I just want to maybe throw it down, see if he, try and explain it. I don't think he's going to see this, but if he does, uh, maybe I could add something to the conversation. Basically, the argument isn't that you want one big government deciding immigration, or that you have like one big federal government, and then the immigration between nations is like immigration between the states and the United States. And that's not the argument. The argument is that you actually have less government, smaller government. So it doesn't matter what Germany's immigration laws are. We want to have the best immigration laws. And so how we have the best immigration laws? Well, we let in the best people and we keep out the worst people. Um, so how we do that? How we let in the best people? Well, we already know that there is this mechanism called the free market, which produces really good results for really cheap. And so we have a free market for food, for airplanes, for this and that, um, and we have plenty of examples of why centrally planning things from Washington isn't a great idea, and it usually doesn't work out well. The same is true of immigration. It's just too complex. There's too many people who want to get in. There's too many jobs. There's too many houses to rent to find out who should get into where, when, how, what skills the country needs. You get this a lot. A lot of conservatives say we should only let in certain people with the skills. Well, who's to say what the right skills are? We might let in a ton of graphic engineers, and then all of a sudden have a ton of unemployed graphic engineers who are now working minimum wage jobs and who are now super upset because the AI destroys their job in 5 years. That could be the thing, and what you think is good now, usually the market signals will be far more wise than anything one person can imagine. Basically, yes, there's very smart people, but no one is even close to smart enough to understand the market as a whole. There's just too many moving parts, and that's why prices are so important. And the government deciding who comes in and who's able to leave, who's able to come in to the country would be the same as the government planning every meal Scott Adams eats. It's just probably not going to work out. Someone in Washington doesn't have the time to understand what Scott Adams likes, what his dietary and nutrition needs are, his age. They're probably just going to give him some one size fits all, and that's going to be horrible for him or for other people. Just there's not enough time for people to really understand the individual circumstances, and so this is why we rely so heavily on market signals. I want to kind of go into something Scott Adams said before in a different Periscope. He talked about it was a good idea for him to come to California because he knew like that would be he would have a really high chance of success because that's just where everything was happening. And imagine if it took Scott Adams 10 grand in dollars back then to come to California and another 10 grand to come to LA. He might never have been able to come to California. That's a huge investment. He could have gotten a house at the time, maybe two houses, and he might never have found the success he was looking for, at least the type of success he was looking for. It's the same thing with people from Mexico. It's incredibly expensive for them to come and wait in line. The way people want immigration to work. I guess not people, just like Steve Bannon, Breitbart, and Coulter. And so a lot of people just jump the fence. They come in illegally, and the government, both people in power, both Republicans and Democrats, know that this is actually the right way to do things. That it would be best if we had open borders. Like mathematically, it just works out. I'm not sure. Scott M kind of wants to get dragged down into like the economic theory and why we know open borders is actually much better for the United States. Like mathematically, no, it's better for the United States. But basically, they tried to get through with NAFTA, and the public sentiment is just so far against open borders that they couldn't get through with NAFTA, and so both parties kind of agree with a wink and a nod to just say, well, we're not going to let them in. We're going to make it illegal, but we're going to have lax immigration laws or lax enforcement laws so that people can come in illegally. It's a major boost to our economy. The reason why Bannon and Coulter talk about self deportation is because they fully well know it's impossible to deport the number of illegal immigrants in the United States. It would cost more than our GDP for years, year after year, 100% of America's resources to deport these people. Um, so it's kind of like an incurable. It's kind of like anything. You make weed illegal, marijuana illegal, and people go and buy it on the black market. That's all illegal immigration is. It's black market labor. Um, Anyways, so I just wanted to go over a couple things. So we already went over global government. There's no global government necessary for immigration. At Max, Trump keeps talking about a big, beautiful door in his wall so people can come in. At least we know who's coming in. I think most libertarians would be okay with that. There's not really an issue as if, well, we just make sure we don't have terrorists coming in. We make sure there's no crime, drug lords coming in, or just, people we know are dangerous coming into the country. As long as something like Ellis Island, like the vast majority of people who went through Ellis Island got through, and a ton of people didn't even go through Ellis Island. They came in some other way. For most of U.S. history, there were open borders, and it worked out fantastic for the country, because the kind of people you get are people who are heavily entrepreneurial, people who, they say that the United States isn't based on any racial identity, it's based on an idea, and people who accept certain ideas. Um, Someone who hates the idea of America, who hates the idea of freedom, and there's plenty of them out there, isn't going to immigrate here unless they want to harm us, right? And that's who we need to keep out. But um, isn't going to come to America. You're going to get people who even in heavily socialist countries like Sweden, you're going to get the Swedish people who are conservative, who love what America stands for, who love freedom rather than equality. Those are the people who are going to come here, and they're going to be fantastic. Um, One of the issues that we get with illegal immigration, with not letting people, with not having open borders, or at least more lax immigration laws, um, is that you have these huge populations of illegal immigrants who are afraid to go to the police. So if they know there's a rapist or they know there's a murderer or a thief, they don't want to go to the police because at the very least they'll have to show like a phone number, an ID. They'll have to testify in court, and they're not going to put their life, risk getting deported just to testify in court. So you lay the groundwork for these drug smugglers and actually make crime worse. It would be much easier to crack down on the violent illegal aliens if we didn't have so many huge populations of people who are scared to come out and talk to the cops. So you'd have less crime, you'd have a much better workforce. Basically, there's this issue where there's a mixed match of American labor, both geographically and skill-wise and age-wise. It's very hard to tell someone who's been making $30 an hour as an engineer, hey, sorry, you've got to start back at minimum wage, $8 an hour, because your job went away. For whatever reason, we no longer need your job. We no longer have your job. The economy changed. It's very difficult to tell that worker that the tough luck, and that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. But that will happen to some people. As you, just think of truck drivers get paid a ton of money. Imagine going from that, and all of a sudden there's no job because AI took your job. Now in a free market, your money, that $7 you're making or that $8 is now worth a lot more because there's more goods and services. So like purchasing power wise, you're fine. But it's very hard to to have people trust that and say, well, like, trust me, in 5 years, like, yeah, you're losing your job today, but like in 5 years, it'll be a wash. Like, you're gonna look back and see this as a good thing. Um, so if there were less political regulations surrounding unemployed people or jobs going overseas or something, then you could maybe get a smoother transition of labor. But there's a ton of jobs Americans don't really want to do at the prices that they need to be done with. And so if someone's not willing to pick grapes for $12 an hour or cut up cows, because you need butchers, right? You need industrial butchers, right? And a lot of that's done by humans who cut up cows for $12 an hour. If Americans aren't willing to do that in general, then it makes a lot of sense for someone to hire an illegal immigrant. Um, Anyways, you get and by the way, these are the people you want. People who are willing to work hard for not very much money, just so that their kids might have a chance at a better life. Those are the Americans you want. Um, and I just want to close with just mentioning, like, this is how it used to be. It used to be that you didn't need passports. And look, I know Scott Adams said just because things are used to be a certain way doesn't mean we can't do them a better way. But I want to push back a little bit and say that you know the you know, a lot of the wealth we have today, a lot of the technology we have today wasn't necessarily new. They had gunpowder for a very long time before it became useful. They had steam engines in ancient Egypt. We know that they knew a little bit about electricity. We actually know they had working steam engines for sure. Hero, that was the guy who was a Greek, but he was studying in Egypt, in the Library at Alexandria. But anyways, they never made it into the Industrial Revolution, and actually China did, and then they went backwards. They actually did make it to the Industrial Revolution, but they went backwards. But anyways, that's kind of besides the point. The point is that the reason why we were able to have an industrial revolution in America was because, or in it was first Europe, then America, was because we held on to certain principles. And if we had 50% tax rates, if we had this huge regulation, we never would have had the industrial revolution to begin with. That's actually what happened in China. They started they started these industries, mining and working with metals, and they had a mechanical clock for over 1,000 years ago. But then basically they overregulated them, overtaxed and overregulated these industries, and then they died within a generation. Um, it was also on purpose. They kind of killed them on purpose. They didn't want these up and comers challenging the entrenched political class. Anyways, this video is getting kind of long. If Scott M sees this, thank you very much for taking a look. Um, I like your ideas. I plan on listening to your audiobook. I'm really impressed with everything you've done and how courageous you've been. I hope you have a wonderful day. And if something's confusing, just feel free to ask a question. Maybe I was rambling a little bit too much, but put something down in the comments. I don't mind explaining it. It's very well known how good immigration is, and that's why all the politicians at the top in both parties turn a blind eye to illegal immigration, because it's the best they can do without getting voted out of office. Americans hate illegal immigration so much that they'll vote anyone out. So politically, it's untenable to have open borders, but economically, it's a huge boon. Anyways, I hope you have a great day. Bye.